You're listening to APMG Radio. I'm Lucy, and today I'm pleased to introduce our special guest, Valerie MacLeod. Valerie is a business coach who works with technical leaders to help them fine-tune their leadership skills and make well-informed business decisions. So thank you, Valerie. Always a pleasure having you on the show, so thank you again for joining us.
Thanks, Lucy. Great to be back.
Let's start the show by talking about business coaches and what is a business coach compared to other types of coaches? How would you define that?
Well, I'm a business coach, but that doesn't mean I only work for organizations that make money. So I work for organizations that are public, private, not-for-profit, but I help leaders on the business of their organization, whatever that business is. And I help leaders become better leaders, to fine-tune their leadership skills so that they're better at leading and they can have a more impact on their organization. What business coaching isn't is it's not personal coaching, it's not life coaching, it's not psychological coaching. Business coaching really is around helping those leaders improve their skills, fine-tune those skills so that they can have a positive impact on the results of that organization.
Do you find that when you start working with new clients that they tend to have those misconceptions at the very beginning of that sort of course that you begin with them?
At the beginning, our first session, we talk about expectations and we talk about what happens at coaching and what doesn't, what happens during the sessions, what happens between the sessions, what my role is, what their role is. We set up that first session to get a lot of clarity and set us up for success so that they know what's happening.
You said that you work with technical leaders. What are technical leaders?
Technical leaders are leaders within organizations of any kind that are experts in their field of knowledge. So they could be an excellent accountant or doctor or engineer. They really know their job. They know the processes, the content, how to do their job really well from a technical point of view. They may not have a lot of coaching and training in some of the leadership areas, some of those areas that they need to step up on. So technical leaders are those people who have that background in their specific discipline or their specific area.
And how do you help technical leaders and improve those skills when it comes to working within their companies?
What I do is I bring tools and processes and help them get a different perspective, get some more information, look at something in a different light to help them find their own answers. I don't think I bring the answers. I think I help them find their answers.
Oh, in our last interview, I found it very interesting. We discussed 7 of the 9 symptoms of highly ineffective leaders. So let's discuss the 2 that we didn't get to. And the first one would be gratuitous turnover. So what does that mean?
Gratuitous turnover means that employees are leaving a leader or a part of the organization in large numbers, and we're not necessarily sure why. I remember a quote one time that said, "Employees join an organization and they quit a leader." So gratuitous turnover is when people are leaving one leader, and that's often when I'm called in to coach. The costs to an organization are huge when people actually leave the organization. The human resources field has estimated that it costs 2 to 3 times a person's annual salary to hire and train someone as a replacement.
Wow. And is this pretty common that people will leave with regards to, they'll leave that organization because of the leader?
Very common, because people don't change very much and they don't change on their own. So if I'm working for a leader that I don't get along with, the person doesn't value me, I never get any feedback on if I'm doing good, I only get feedback when I'm doing poorly, I think that person's never going to change. I'm going to get out of here.
Do you think, before you come into it, Valerie, that in most organizations there is a good sort of pathway for an employee to get it across that, that they don't feel valued in that organization, that this is not what they expected, that they're doing their job but they don't feel appreciated, is there a good route for them to go along with the right support in order to help at least get their opinion out there, or is that something that needs to be improved?
It really depends on the organization. Some organizations I work with have a really good human resources department where people can go and talk about issues and they get investigated. And other organizations, their care meter might not be as high on that one.
Do you have any stories with regards to working with gratuitous turnover and how you were able to help accompany your organization?
Oh, sure. I remember one time I worked with a small organization and 2 key employees left over a very short period of time. And in a small organization, 2 employees is a lot. So that caused delays in customer service, and extra money was spent on overtime, etc. So what was interesting about the leader of that organization was he had a really good sense of who he was, but he didn't have a good sense on his impact on other people. So his style that originally attracted people ended up grating on people as time went along. So I worked with him to take a look at how did he communicate with people, how and when to give communication, what was the best kind of communication to give. And what ended up happening was he worked well with his entire team, including the 2 new people that joined, and no one quit.
I love, Valerie, that you have these stories on our last show, and it seems as though you're like the fairy godmother of business, that you're able to create this magic and make an organization change around. From a point of view as a coach and going through that, does it require a lot of effort, and is it challenging to help change people's mind frames and to think outside of the box in order for the organization to change?
Yes. I can't change anyone else. I can only change myself. So I give people the opportunity to look at something with a new set of eyes, or see something differently, or come at it from a different direction, from using a model or a tool or a checklist. And that helps them make the decision that they're going to make change. Because if you're married, you can't change your spouse. So you can't change other people as well.
Now, the last symptom that we didn't get to on our previous show was unresolved customer and employee complaints. Tell us a little bit about this symptom.
Well, people tend to ignore complaints. They think it's not a fire that needs to be put out right now, and so therefore they just tend to ignore it. And so it's easy to ignore because it's not something right now. It's not a big fire that has to be put out right now. And I often talk to my people and say, you're not a firefighter. You shouldn't be putting out fires. You need to be putting time into building relationships with customers. You need to be putting time into making sure that you have good relationships with your employees. You're not a firefighter. You're a manager. You're a director. You're a CEO. I worked with one technical leader at a large organization, and he basically dismissed any complaint that came his way. And what people started doing was they went around him because they didn't want to deal with him anymore. So to get services from his group, they went to his staff. So the company brought me in, and if this guy didn't change his behavior and his style, he was going to get fired.
Wow.
Yeah, so it really was important for him. He was a little bit motivated. And we started taking a look at what was he doing? What was his actions, and what was the impact of those actions, as well as the results he was getting. And I got him to look at, was there a thread of truth in those complaints he was getting? Because instead of just dismissing them, was there maybe some common patterns? Was there some things that people were saying he was hearing over and over again? Maybe even 5% was true of those complaints. So we started looking at the complaints in that way. We also got some trusted advisors, some people that he trusted their feedback, and he got feedback from those people on his style. And we also helped him communicate better with people in the organization.
Excellent.
So in the long run, he kept his job.
Again, another amazing story where you were able to help change the situation that was taking place within that company and make it change for the best. So we're going to take a break now. When we come back, we're going to be talking more about your work and your experiences as a business coach. I'm Lucy, and my guest today is Valerie MacLeod. We'll be back straight after the commercial break.